All right, everybody, here we are for the Blue Jays 2018-19, or I guess the 2018 season review, and the 2019 off-season preview for the Toronto Blue Jays. Guys, this will probably be the last video you guys see Blue Jays-wise until things start going down in free agency and via the trade market and all that kind of stuff. But we're here to break down the 2018 that we saw last year, and it was a grind, that's for darn sure. But we'll break it down. We'll talk about the positives, the negatives, who did well, who did not do well, and all that crazy stuff. We'll also talk about the Blue Jays free agents. There's only two notable free agents for the Blue Jays. And we'll also talk about free agents out there that Blue Jays should possibly look at. All right? So we're going to start it off with the 2018 Toronto Blue Jays season. And obviously, since you did not make the playoffs, it was a failure of a season. That's it. That's what you know for sure. But expectations coming into spring training and coming into this year were like, well, if the rotation can stay healthy and be consistent the way we know they can, the sky is the limit. Aaron Sanchez, Marcus Stroman, J-Happ, Marco Estrada, and Jaime Garcia, we were 5 starters coming out of spring training. Aaron Sanchez barely threw over 100 innings. Marcus Stroman, same thing. Neither guy could stay healthy. J-Happ was your only consistent Blue Jays pitcher, and yet he was traded at the deadline to the Yankees. Marco Estrada, terrible. And Jaime Garcia had a good first few starts, then was terrible, then got injured, then went to the bullpen. He was all right there, but then they released him. There, right there, is your 2018 Blue Jays pitching rotation. Terrible. And it kind of sums up the year in a sense in itself. Like another question coming into the year. Can Troy Tulowitzki be healthy, and can Josh Donaldson be healthy and consistently good? Hit 290, hit 40 home runs. Can he be that guy? Excuse me. Well, the answer is no to both guys. Tulo did not touch the field once. And Josh Donaldson played less than 40 games with the ball club, then went to Cleveland at the August trade deadline, and didn't do squat there, and then they were knocked out in the first round against the Houston Astros in 3 games. Adios, boys. So the core of this team, and then Roberto Osuna gets all these allegations, then he's traded away. The core of this team did nothing good. And you rely on the supporting cast to get it done. We're going to run through some guys. We're going to run through the roster real quick. Not the rookies because they didn't play as many games. We'll run through the guys who played most of their season with the big club and kind of see how they did. And did they exceed expectations? Did they not do well? That kind of thing. Danny Barnes and Joe Biagini were 2 guys coming into the year that were like, you know what? Both guys hopefully will be in the bullpen and be what they were. Well, Joe Biagini 2 years ago when he was in the pen, and Danny Barnes last year. Both were terrible. Barnes was terrible in the bullpen. Plus, he had options, so he was sent down to AAA as well. He was up and down like crazy. And Joe Biagini started the rotation in Buffalo, then ended up getting the call to the big league club to pitch in the rotation. He was horrific there. They ended up putting him in the bullpen. It is a little bit better, not much. Overall, not a good season for either guy. I'll talk about Ryan Borucki, I guess, because he threw 97 innings. Put it into perspective. Ryan Borucki threw almost as many innings as Stroman and Sanchez. And he was great. He was very, very good, Ryan Borucki, in his very limited time with the Toronto Blue Jays. Sam Gaviglio, guys, came over early in the year to help with pitching depth, and he was great to start the season, but then horrific the entire rest of the year. Could not win a game on the road, won all the games at home. Next up, Tim Mayza. And this guy, if you guys watched every video that I posted, first off, thank you very much for that. Second of all, Tim Mayza was terrible for the first half of the season because he was up and down with AAA Buffalo and the Toronto Blue Jays as Danny Barnes was. And in those splits, he really wasn't all that great. But when he came up in September to stay, he solidified himself as that lefty shutdown reliever. You know, coming into that September call-up, I guess, he had like a 5 ERA or something along those lines. End of the year, 3.28, and has a ridiculous scoreless inning streak to end the season, and ended up not giving a run up in the month of September. He was stellar. He was fantastic. Thomas Pannone, guys, again, very limited time, less than Ryan Borucki, but a very good short time with the Toronto Blue Jays. Could be a good piece moving forward for this team. David Paulino, acquired in the Roberto Osuna trade, didn't get much look into him, only threw like 6 innings of work and an ERA of 1.35, which is good in those 6 innings of work, but it's only 6 innings of work. You're not going to get a whole lot from that. Jake Petrichka, I didn't really like him all that much. And Ryan Tepera is the last bullpen guy. And there was a lot of love-hate relationship from Jays fans. In the closer's role, we didn't like him. He blew a ton of games. But when he was in the setup role, the 7th inning role, I thought he was pretty good. ERA of 3.52, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 3.62, excuse me. Which isn't terrible. You know, a lot of those runs probably came while he was a closer. I think he blew like 10 games or something like that. You get rid of those and put him as a straight 8th or 7th inning guy. He could have an ERA in the low 3s, and we wouldn't even be talking about this. But he had a pretty good season overall. And I forgot to mention Ken Giles. He came over in that Roberto Osuna trade as well. He was great. He was great since coming over to the Jays. Yeah, had a rough start with the ball club, but as the season progressed, he had a ridiculously good end to the season for him. Russell Martin hit a $194. Enough said. Luke Maile hit 248. I was really impressed with Luke. He's a perfect backup catcher. He gives you great defense, and he hit almost 250. And he walked off a few games as well, did Lukey Barrels. I love what we saw from Luke Maile this year, and good things to come for him moving forward into next season. However, with the catching depth the way it is for the Blue Jays, I don't know how much playing time him or Russell Martin will get with Reese McGuire and Danny Jansen ready to go. I don't know if Reese. I don't know who's going to be. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens next year, though, guys. Aledmus Diaz is my MVP of the season for the Toronto Blue Jays. I loved Lourdes Gurriel, guys. Don't get me wrong, but he didn't play as many games as Aledmus Diaz. Diaz played 130 games, had 422 at bats. He hit 263. He had 18 home runs, 26 doubles, 55 runs scored, 55 RBIs, walked 23 times, and the thing I love about Aledmus Diaz, he struck out only 62 times in 130 games. That was impeccable. I loved what I saw from him this year. He was great, and everyone coming into the season was like, oh, defensive woes were a big problem for him in St. Louis. He maybe struggled early on, but he seemed pretty good to me overall. I love what we saw from Aledmus Diaz, especially at third base this season. Lourdes Gurriel Jr., I'll talk about him a little bit here. He played, 65 games. See what I mean? He did hit 281, 11 home runs, 8 doubles, 35 RBIs, 30 runs scored. He's a stud. We know that, and he's got one heck of an arm. So, great things to come there for Lourdes Gurriel. Justin Smoke, guys, the Blue Jays picked up his club option there yesterday for $8 million. Smokey had a little bit of a down season at 242 with a 350 on base percentage, however. 83 walks for Smokey, 77 RBI, 67 runs scored, 25 home runs, 34 doubles. A little bit of a dip in the average category, but other than that, he had a really good season. 156 strikeouts in 147 games. Not very good for Smokey in that sense, but statistically, on a team like this where we didn't get a lot of runs, he was pretty good. I liked what we saw from Smokey overall this year. Solarte, he's arbitration eligible this season. Charlie Montoyo came into this, we talked about it in the video, about effort. That being the number one thing for any team that he coaches. Solarte was the one guy Blue Jays fans, including myself, ripped him apart because he never ran to first base. He always jogged like it's a, whatever. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they end up doing with him. Rowdy Tellez, we know what he did for this team. Hit 314 in 23 games, and he had a ridiculous start to his Blue Jays career. Devin Travis did not have a Devin Travis season in many aspects. For one, he didn't get hurt. He still played over 100 games, but he only hit 230-something. And only 14 doubles. That's not Devin Travis. Devin Travis is a 30-double guy, like a Kevin Pillar. We'll get to him in a second. But Devin Travis is definitely going to look back for a bounce back year next season. We're going to all have to wait and see what happens with him, though, moving forward. Troy Tulowitzki. Next up, we have Randall Grichuk, and he was brought over as well from the St. Louis Cardinals in the offseason. Had a ridiculously horrific first month of the season, was hurt in the second month of the year, and coming back in the month of June, he had an average of under 100. I mean, he was terrible. But Randall Grichuk really finds his way as the season goes on. Hit 245 for the season, 61 RBIs, 60 runs scored, 25 home runs, 32 doubles. I was really impressed with Grichuk in that second half of the year, really finding his stroke and crushing the baseball. I loved what I saw from him in the second half of the year. Plus, his defense was pretty good too. So that's why I'm like, you give me the 25 home runs for an outfielder, hit me 245, 250, have a little bit of speed to you, and play good defense, I will never complain. Never complain. Teoscar Hernandez, speaking of defense, he had a terrible defensive season. We all know that. We all saw that. But the problem is, Jays fans, and I love you guys so much for Jays fans, but I really dislike people when because early in the year, when he's not up at the ball club, everyone's like, oh, why don't you have Teoscar Hernandez up here? He deserves it. Midway through the season, when he's striking out a bazillion times, he ends up hitting 239 on the year, everyone's like, trade him. Guys, either you give him a chance or you don't. Like, honestly. 22 home runs, 29 doubles, 7 triples, 67 runs scored, 57 RBIs, 163 strikeouts in 134 games. Not what you want to see from Teoscar. But again, it's basically his first full rookie season. Now he looks to change things up, develop more, become more of a contact hitter, and be able to slap the baseball and make contact for that matter. That's all we're asking for. But, I mean, you know what? 22 home runs, good starting point for Teoscar. We know he's a good arm, and he's got raw power. The rest has to come together. We don't know if it will. It'll take some time. Billy McKinney, guys, had a great hitting streak to start his Blue Jays career, but ended up slowing down hard. Only hit 252 on the season in 38 games. And K-Money, we know the rough start of the season that he had and the way he put together that 120 average and couldn't hit any home runs and struck out a ton. He was terrible. But like Randall Grichuk, found his way and ends up hitting 249 on the year, 331 on base percentage, one of his best OBPs of his career, 21 home runs, 15 doubles, 47 runs scored, 57 RBIs, 50 walks for K-Money, 95 strikeouts. Now, 95 Ks in 130 games is not terrible. Especially for a guy who we think is Teoscar Hernandez and striking out a bajillion times. Seeing that number there, I was impressed with K-Money this year. I was really impressed. Something I just actually forgot to mention, Kevin Pillar. I mean, he just does what he does. He does what Kevin Pillar does. Hits 250, hits 15 dingers, 40 doubles for Kevin Pillar, 65 runs scored, 59 RBIs, strikes out 98 times, and only 18 walks. Exactly what Kevin Pillar does, and he's going to give you pretty good defense overall. There we go. So that, guys, right there, that is your 2018 Blue Jays season review, kind of player review, that kind of thing. And now we're going to talk about some important things moving forward. We now know who our coach is in Charlie Montoyo. First thing we think about, any of our free agents that we would like to bring back. Well, Marco Estrada is one of them. I think his time is done. Because his last 2 seasons, he's been absolutely crushed. And plus, his age is getting up there, too. I don't think Marco has much left in the tank, but you never know. I just think his tenure as a Blue Jay is done. The other one is Tyler Clippard. Now, that's a very interesting guy right there, guys. This team is so young, and if you want to play in the bullpen, a guy like David Paulino and a guy like Tim Meza and guys like that, some of the younger pitchers, having a vet like Tyler Clippard, who's been around a ton, and look, guys, as you can talk all you want about how Tyler Clippard had a terrible season and gave up a lot of home runs this year. He had an ERA of under 4. That seemed to be a luxury for this team this season. I would not be opposed to bring Tyler Clippard back. Why not? This team is probably not going to be going to a playoff spot this year, guys. I hate to say it to you, but the way the Red Sox are and the Yankees, first off, there's your division in the Red Sox and one of the wild card spots in the Yankees. Do the Jays, as of right now, have any chance to make it that far? Look, the Jays were 16 games under 500. The second wild card team in the Oakland A's was 32 games over. Will it happen? I don't think so, guys. But it's all about, you never know in a sense. If people don't stay healthy or the Jays go out there in free agency and they get some good players, then you never know. But as of right now, I don't see why Tyler Clippard can't be a Blue Jay next season. But that's only remained to be seen. And I want to hear what you guys have to say about that. Do you guys think that Tyler Clippard should return as a Blue Jay? I don't know if he will or not. You see on these one-year deals, people just let them walk and they go to a different team like it was just a whatever kind of thing. But the way Clippard is a vet and he's been around such a long time, I think that they should maybe give him a chance. But, I don't know. So now, guys, we're going to sit here and we're going to talk about the free agents out there in the major leagues that the Blue Jays should maybe have a look at. First off, catchers. I have a list here. I don't know if the Blue Jays need a catcher. Guys, we all have to realize what direction do we want this team going into? Do you want to see them going into rebuild mode, which means playing your younger players? Or do you go out there and sign the best player available? I don't know about that. And catchers, you have Danny Jansen, you have Reese McGuire, you still have Russell Martin, and you got Luke Maile. I don't see any catchers being brought in by the Blue Jays. If they do, they are depth guys that are going to be in AAA or in AA for that matter. I don't really see much craziness happening there. First base, you have K Money, Smoke, and Rowdy Tellez. Do you see anything happening there? The names right here are Joe Mauer, Steve Pearce, Matt Adams, Mark Reynolds, Lucas Duda, Adam Rosales, Hanley Ramirez, and Logan Morrison. I don't see any of those guys coming to this team. Second base, that's a very interesting one. I don't think Kevin Biggio is ready as of yet. Devin Travis is still your guy, I'm pretty sure, for next season, if he can stay healthy, of course. Here are the second basemen that are available. Jed Lowry, who had a very good season with the Oakland A's at 35 years old. Asdrubal Cabrera, Ian Kinsler, DJ LeMahieu, who's been a great hitter his entire career, but I mean, do you really want to go up there and sign him? If you can, that's great. Daniel Descalso, Brian Dozier, Daniel Murphy, Andrew Romine, Neil Walker, Sean Rodriguez, Gordon Beckham, Logan Forsythe, and Brandon Phillips. Those are the free agent second basemen for this team. I think a guy like Jed Lowry might not be a bad one on a short-term deal. Help him out with some of the younger infielders that this team is going to have, right? Maybe an Asdrubal Cabrera. I don't know. All these guys I'm looking at, and I'm like, would they be all right? Yeah, sure, but really, I don't know. I don't really care. Third base, should I even read this out? We know Vladdy's going to be there at some point, and I guess we have Solarte and Brandon Drury right now. So, Eduardo Escobar, Mike Moustakas, who declined his $15 million option, Josh Donaldson, Adrian Beltre, who's probably going to retire. I think he is, actually. Chase Headley, who's 35. I don't even know if he signed a contract, or if he did, I don't know where he went. Ryan Flaherty, Danny Valencia, Jose Reyes, and Luis Valbuena. No thanks. And shortstop, you have Diaz. You could possibly have Tulowitzki. And you also have Bo Bichette. Manny Machado, Jose Iglesias, Elvis Andrus, Freddie Galvis, Jordy Mercer, Adeiny Hechavarria, Alcides Escobar, and Eric Sogard. Other than Manny Machado, but he's going to want the big money. And the Jays don't want to shell that out right now, and it won't happen. So that's really it for the infielders. There really wasn't much out there, guys, that I've been feeling, too much about. Left field, we got, who do we have out there right now? We had Billy McKinney and Teoscar Hernandez. Michael Brantley, very interesting, veteran player. Marwin Gonzalez, Denard Span, Curtis Granderson. I would not be opposed to Granderson coming back. Craig Gentry, Cameron Maben, Matt Joyce, Matt Holliday, Geraldo Parra, Gregor Blanco, and Hunter Pence. A lot of good veteran outfielders there that if you wanted to sign them to a one-year deal to kind of help your younger players out, would not be a bad idea. Center field, A.J. Pollock, Adam Jones, Eric Young Jr., Rajai Davis, Austin Jackson. You have Kevin Pillar, I'm good enough there. And right fielders where it gets really, really interesting because there's a lot. Bryce Harper, Andrew McCutchen, Nick Markakis, Jason Hayward, Carlos Gonzalez, Jose Bautista, who I think should sign a one-day contract with the Blue Jays and retire. John Jay, Lonnie Chisenhall, Melky Cabrera, Brandon Guyer, Carlos Gomez, and Chris Young. So those are the outfielders, guys. If there's any there that really jump out to you, let me know in the comments below, guys, and have at it. Just go at it, guys. I really do appreciate it. DHs, Nelson Cruz, Evan Gattis, and Pedro Alvarez. No thanks. Now, this is where things are going to get quite interesting, though. The starting pitching. Stroman and Sanchez are your locks for next year, or at least we think. Health-wise, we're not sure, but if you look at it from the outside perspective, those are your two guys, and you could throw Ryan Borucki into that mix. Here is the list of the starters. Patrick Corbin at 29 years old. Dallas Keuchel, Clayton Kershaw, well, he can opt out of his contract. I don't know if he will or not. Jay Happ, Charlie Morton, who had a really, really good season with the Houston Astros. Lance Lynn, David Price, well, he actually accepted his qualifying offer. He did not opt out of, or sorry, he did not opt out of his contract. CC Sabathia, Anibal Sanchez, Nathan Eovaldi, Gio Gonzalez, Ryu on the Dodgers, Trevor Cahill, Derek Holland, and the list goes on and on and on. Irvin Santana's down there. Big Sexy's on there at 46 years old. Again, not something you look at as crazy things. And if we're looking at bullpen guys for those short-term deals, Adam Ottavino, the guy from the Colorado Rockies, 33-year-old, Jeurys Familia, Joakim Soria, David Robertson, Craig Kimbrell. I think the Red Sox will probably re-sign him, no problem. Jesse Chavez, Oliver Perez, Tony Sipp, Zach Duke, Brad Brock, former Baltimore Oriole, Joe Kelly, Sergio Romo, Jake Diekman, and like I said, the list goes on and on and on here because they're relievers. If you guys go through the list and you guys find anybody that you think would be great fits for this team, please let me know in the comments below, guys. But I think this team should really start doing what they did last year. These veterans on one-year deals worked so well. Look, you traded Sung-Won Oh for two good-looking young prospects. All the Rockies did was get through the wild card game, and that was it. And the Jays got two prospects. Granderson, you got one back. Aaron Loop got one back. I mean, Jacob Walker's back's not too great, but they didn't even make the playoffs, did the Phillies. And then you look at Steve Pearce, and you got Santiago Espinal. Great job by Steve Pearce, though, winning the MVP of the World Series. Well-deserved in that time there with Boston. But, guys, you do that again. You sign another Curtis Granderson. You sign a couple of one-year deals on these relievers. They can give you some good money, and good rookies. That's what this team needs is the younger players. But, I mean, you never know. I don't know what Shapiro and Atkins are thinking. I don't know what their thoughts are moving forward for this team. But all I know is that as a Jays fan, I want this team to do it the right way. And if that means trading off older players to get some younger talent and letting the rookies develop in the system, fine. Fine. Let that happen. But I don't know what their philosophy is, and I don't know what they're going to do come free agency and via the trade market. So you know what, guys? I think that's going to wrap this video up. If you guys enjoyed this video and you guys are kind of fired up for the offseason get going for the Jays, hit that like button. I do appreciate that. Hit the subscribe button if you guys have not already. Comment down below. What did you guys think of the video? What did you think of the 2018 season as a Jays? What is your favorite game from the 2018 Blue Jays season? In my eyes, it's the way the rookies came back and beat the Tampa Bay Rays there late in the season. If you guys have any other games, though, that you can kind of say, that's my favorite game, you guys let me know in the comments below, guys. And, also what are your expectations for the upcoming season? What pitchers and players do you think this team should go after in the offseason? Do you think Tyler Clippard should come back as a Blue Jay? I want to hear what you guys have to say. And, my goodness, Evan and I will talk to you guys. It was supposed to be today. We couldn't do it today, guys. So it'll be Saturday afternoon, podcast edition. Links in the description for the podcast channel and for the podcast itself on iTunes, guys. Twitter is also down below. Follow up, send me a DM, do all that great stuff. And I will talk to you guys at any point, Jays edition. Now, I mean, who knows what's going to happen. We'll talk to you guys Leafs edition tomorrow as they take on the Dallas Stars at Scotiabank Arena, looking to get back in the win column, and they're find their form without Austin Matthews. And as for the Toronto Raptors, they hit the road to take on the Phoenix Suns on Friday night, looking to get in a groove on the road. It's not going to be easy because you had a tough 4-game road trip coming up, but it's going to be a doozy of a 4-game set, and the Raptors look to continue to show how dominant they can be. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll talk to you guys then.